Hello, everyone. My name is Nous, bunny goddess of insanity. But please, call me Nous. Today, we're going to be talking about Kai Cenat Streamer University 2026, specifically Ludwig's class, and how those lessons can be applied to VTubers. Now, I have seen on Twitter that a lot of VTubers feel that this is not particularly useful for them, given the limitations of our tech, because the advice is kind of more centered towards people who do IRL content, but I promise you there are really good foundational tools and advice given in this course that can help anyone, regardless if you use a webcam or a VTuber, okay? Because let's be honest, every creator hits roadblocks, and the first question you need to ask yourself is, what is your actual goal with streaming/content creation? Do you want to stream casually, like where you hang out with friends and just have like it be a fun hobby? There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Or do you want to have this grow into something bigger? A career, a community, a brand, getting into a corporation? Because those two goals require very, very, very different mindsets. Since you clicked on this video, I'm going to assume you're interested in the growth mode. Awesome. So in this little mini-series, we're going to be breaking down some of the biggest lessons we can take away from Ludwig's class and how to apply them specifically to VTubers. This episode is going to be focusing mostly on content strategy and streaming habits. So with that out of the way, let's hop on in. So I feel like it is important to give you a quick rundown of what Streamer University actually is. Kai Cenat, who is one of the biggest streamers of all time, has been running this a 5-day boot camp for creators. Essentially, you are getting mentorship and guidance from people who are more successful in the scene to help you elevate and hopefully break through plateaus that you may be experiencing yourself. So it's structured similarly to an actual classroom in the sense that there's little challenges and homework, and it's about skill building, networking, and treating content like a craft. Because it takes a lot of love. It is a labor of love, yes. However, the core message applies whether you use a face cam or a VTuber model. We're all content creators at the end of the day. So let's talk about the first major lesson from Ludwig's class in Streamer U, okay? And that is mindset and competition. You're not just competing with other small creators, not just VTubers, you are competing with everyone. Ludwig emphasizes that success requires hunger, consistency, and a willingness to analyze yourself honestly. Luck plays a role, but long-term success comes from constantly identifying your weak points and improving upon them. You have to be willing to look at your content and ask yourself, what worked? What didn't? And where did I lose people? Because nobody can hand you success. You have to actively build the skills that get you there. And a good example of this is actually one of the challenges Ludwig gave to his class: homework. And the assignment was incredibly simple, which consisted of what motivates you, who inspires you, what is your goal for the end of the year, and a realistic schedule. A lot of people will just stream as soon as they wake up until they go to sleep with no plan whatsoever, and they burn themselves out. Easy homework, right? Now, of the 120 students, how many would you assume completed this homework?
Of my 120 students, 6 have done the homework.
Really?
6! 6 is bad. That's a bad percentage. 5% is low. 95% of people didn't do it.
6. Only a handful. Which honestly greatly highlights how people treat content creation and streaming in general. A lot of people look at successful creators and think that success just happened to them. They see the finished product, not the years of experimentation, failures, adjustment, and discipline behind it. So let's do the homework ourselves. Who inspires you to create? Not just who is popular, but specifically who makes you excited about creating. What about their content speaks to you? Write down 3 creators who sparked your passion and why. Then ask yourself, what is a realistic goal for your content by the end of the year? Not a fantasy goal, not I want 1 million subscribers tomorrow, a realistic goal. And finally, create a schedule that you can actually follow. not a schedule that looks impressive, a schedule you can maintain. For example, I usually dedicate my Sundays to editing shorts and reviewing analytics from the week. I stream around twice a week and intentionally leave buffer days between streams because I need to protect my voice, especially because I do a lot of audio-focused content. Your schedule should work with your life, not against it, which leads us to our next point of motivation versus discipline. Now, motivation is a tricky and fleeting temptress. It's easy to feel motivated when your numbers are climbing, when a video performs well, or when streaming still feels new and exciting. But every single creator hits a plateau. Growth slows down, a video flops, your excitement fades. And here exactly is where discipline matters. Motivation gets you started, but discipline is what keeps you moving when things stop feeling rewarding. This is why having a realistic schedule matters so much. You are building a system that keeps you creating even when your brain is screaming, maybe this isn't working out for me, maybe I'm not cut out for this, maybe I suck, blah, blah, blah. Get that out of your head. Stop that, cut it out. Because the truth is, every creator experiences those moments, and your goals need to reflect reality. The goal is not to magically go viral. The goal is to consistently improve until you are ready when opportunities appear. This mindset of instant success, fame, and virality is so pervasive in the streaming and content creation sphere in general that people give up instantly. He further discussed how quickly the average person gives up on their dreams of success, given that 92% of people on the platform never stream more than once. So, you continuing to show up already puts you way ahead of the curve. Good job. Absolutely no one is a breakout success. There are several steps in place which accumulate to success, but one of the most common things people will attribute to success is purely luck. Luck is absolutely real. Every veteran creator will tell you that timing, trends, and random moments can completely change your life. And we can actually use a VTuber for an example. The most recent one off the top of my head is Essie, the adorable but comically unlucky sleepy sheep VTuber, whose football team curses during the World Cup helped send her channel from around 10,000 subscribers to 65K in just a few weeks. That's phenomenal. But here's the important part. She wasn't a brand new creator who just randomly appeared overnight. She was already a veteran creator who had spent years building her skills, community, and content. The viral moment was the spark, but the foundation was already there. And that is the lesson. You cannot control when luck arrives, but you can control whether you're prepared when it does. Success is ultimately the combination of talent, luck, and preparation. So now the question becomes, how do we actually prepare ourselves? And that requires delving into content strategy. First and foremost, you know the generic advice, niche down, yada, yada, yada. And to a certain extent, yes, that is true. You need to decide what type of content you want to create. The biggest mistake I see new streamers make is treating streaming as the entire product. Streaming is important, but it is only one part of your content ecosystem. After your stream, you need to turn that into shorts, long form, and social media posts. This is creating a path that leads viewers from discovering you to becoming active parts of your community. You want to do something that's called content funneling. And what that is basically taking your stream, making it into shorts, highlights, or hell, if you talked about something on stream that was interesting, you can honestly turn that into scripted content for skits and stuff. Honestly, it's great. Every single piece of content has its pros and cons. Short form content introduces people to you. Long form content builds investment. Streams build community. Each piece supports the other. And that requires consistency. Yeah. Now, consistency does not mean streaming every single day, especially when you're starting out. And that means you should be focusing on streaming 1 to 2 times per week with a maximum of 4 to 6 hours. Now, people's stamina for streaming is generally really low when they start out, and I typically see 1 to 2 hours being the regular starting point, which is fine. You can make plenty of content within that time frame. But the important thing is having content that is purposeful. You need to be in your best mood and put your best foot forward, because honestly, if you're streaming 12 plus hours a day to one viewer who is yourself, yeah, that's demoralizing to say the least. And you will burn out. You will. I and many creators have done this and burnt out in the past. So it is really important to have a content-centered mindset. One of Ludwig's biggest points is that live streams have very limited natural discovery. Platforms like Twitch and YouTube Live are not always great at introducing new viewers to smaller creators. So instead of treating your stream as something people randomly discover, treat it as a recording session. Plan your streams with purpose that break into segments and know exactly what you are trying to accomplish. So goals. For example, I recently streamed Palworld, and if I wanted to break that up into easy segments for editing later, I could follow an easy formula such as, today, we are expanding our Palworld base, but first, we need to gather materials and upgrade our crafting stations. That immediately creates a goal. You are no longer just playing a game, you're creating a story. This creates a reason for the audience to care. A story for your content to follow. Premise, story, and climax. And when your stream has structure, it becomes much easier to turn those moments into other content later. I will delve deeper into content choices in a future video, but for now, my homework for you is to plan out your streams with a clear goal that you can accomplish within that stream. So that leads up to the next point, which is very poignant as a streamer. You need to actively do VOD reviews. I know, everybody's least favorite activity. But we need to specifically look at when your energy is shifting, when you become less engaged with making content and just kind of like vibing. When did you start mindlessly playing the game instead of actively engaging in your chat, which can happen if you have a smaller and slower moving chat. You can just kind of forget you're streaming. If you cannot critically evaluate your own content yet, ask other creators or trusted friends. I know a lot of people hate the sounds of their own voice, but you really need to do this. Bad video and audio quality drives people away faster than anything. Now, I know this can feel overwhelming. Suddenly, you're expected to post on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, Discord, and probably 12 other platforms that did not exist 5 minutes ago. And as someone with really bad ADHD, I completely understand how exhausting that can feel. Which is why we have tools. And I personally use a tool called Buffer. So Buffer is a free tool that allows you to connect up to 3 accounts and post simultaneously, which saves you a lot of headache with entering in the metadata over and over and over, and it just makes everything so much nicer. And you honestly don't even have to take my word for it. Here is some data I've collected from dinking around and experimenting all on my own. I don't hire editors and I don't do anything fancy. You don't need to worry about all that when you're just starting out, I promise. So what this data is telling you, if you do not understand it, is that in just 5 months of bumbling around on my own, trying to figure things out and experimenting with new content, I managed to dwarf an entire year of growth. You really don't need to hire editors and spend thousands of dollars or build a massive production pipeline when you're just starting out. Those things can and will absolutely help later, but early on, your biggest investment should be learning. Learn to edit, learn to package ideas, learn how to tell a story. An editor can make your content cleaner, but they cannot replace understanding why something does or does not work. And personally, I heavily recommend using free tools like DaVinci Resolve or even CapCut. They have more than enough features for someone who is learning the basics of editing. Your goal early on is not to create Hollywood productions. Your goal is to become a better creator, okay? All right, editing spiel aside, now for things I don't really necessarily push very much, womp womp, hashtags. Hashtags unfortunately have very limited reach in 2026, so use about 3 to 5 max and keep them highly relevant so the algorithm understands what type of content you are making. But long gone are the days where tags can make or break your success, so don't stress about them too much, and definitely do not use too many of them. On to the next topic, we have SEO, or search engine optimization. Your title, description, thumbnail, and first few lines of your description all matter. So when you're a smaller creator, avoid making your metadata impossible for the platforms to understand, okay? A funny meme title might make your existing fans laugh, but if an algorithm has no idea what the video is about, it becomes much harder to recommend. The algorithm needs context. It doesn't understand nuance. It's a robot. So, your homework for today is to create realistic goals, build a schedule you can actually maintain and follow, treat your streams as content opportunities, and actually turn them into content. Have them work for you, okay? And remember that success is when preparation meets opportunity. In the next videos upcoming in this series, I will be diving deeper into VTuber-specific growth, such as networking and collab etiquettes, model design, finding artists and riggers, OBS setup, branding, and everything else that comes with building your own virtual identity. So, I will see you then. Ciao.